Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of At the Coalface Live for this Friday, the 24th of December, 2021. It is, as always, super exciting to be with you. I didn't think I was actually be able to be here with you guys today because I had some plans for today, but I was able to shift some things around so that I was able to spend my Friday afternoon with you as I usually do every single Friday, covering off the latest omni-channel retail and tech news basically, and really cover off really what's been happening in the e-commerce, omni-channel, retail tech, commerce, basically commerce in all its guises, digital commerce in all of its guises. We really try to cover off that news every single week, at least the headlines, the major pieces of news. And it is great to be with you. It's been a busy week from a news perspective, even though it is been a crazy lead up to Christmas for many retailers, and they've been incredibly busy. We still have a lot of news coming out of the industry, and it is great to see the industry continuing to grow and power through. We've got some not so great pieces of news this week as well, and we always try to have a balance of the news. It can't always be good news, so we try to make sure and have a balance of the news when we report on things that are important to the industry, that are impacting the industry, and that really are going to shape the future of our industry. Now, I'd originally thought about maybe doing a bit of a year-end roundup and a bit of a look towards the new year for this episode. And then I sort of looked at the dates, and it looks like we'll be able to squeeze in one more episode before the end of the year next Friday. So I'll go ahead and do my 2021 roundup and outlook for 2022. I'll do that on next Friday's episode. I'll cover all that off. So I won't cover that off today. So we'll just go through the regular ecom news as per normal. And I'll go ahead and get stuck right in. And as usual, feel free to drop some comments or questions in the LinkedIn live stream, the Facebook live stream, and we also go live on YouTube as well at the same time. So we basically do like a simulcast tri-stream. So anyways, again, awesome to have you here with us today, and I'll jump straight into the retailer news to begin with. And this goes into the naughty instead of nice bucket of Christmas retailing efforts. And this one is about Chemist Warehouse being accused of price tampering during Black Friday sales. And this came out of Internet Retailing. Chemist Warehouse has been accused of inflating product prices across the Black Friday weekend, signaling savings which were actually higher than the standard prices advertised before and after the shopping event. According to a report by Consumer Advocate Choice, at least 3 products saw prices a collective 38% higher than their regular price. A wooden bath brush, a pack of 1,000 fish oil tablets, and Blackmore's calcium and magnesium tablets. Our shopper found that prices jumped significantly on Black Friday on 3 items in her online shopping cart, Choice said. A Chemist Warehouse spokesperson told Choice that the issue was that the Cyber Week sales landed in between 2 other sales campaigns, meaning that what Choice identified concerning pricing behaviors were in fact simply the dovetailing of marketing activities. 3 separate sales events ran from one end to the other and then into the other, the spokesperson said. So Chemist Warehouse said the issue isn't price gouging, but the issue of retailers' inconsistent pricing strategies confusing shoppers isn't one to ignore. The New Zealand Commerce Commission in particular warned retailers against this practice in the lead up to Black Friday this year and said it wouldn't hold back from taking businesses to court over the matter as it has in the past. And it called out the fact that prices should not be increased before a sale to immediately claim a bigger discount at sale time. Commission Chairwoman Anna Rawlings said, and a promotional sale should provide a limited opportunity to buy at a genuinely reduced price and should not continue for prolonged periods of time offering the same prices. Now, what's interesting about this is that I'm not sure if this was the very first time that Chemist Warehouse has been called out for this, but I guess there's quite a number of very, very large retailers that have been accused of this practice historically around big sale periods, around holiday sales periods, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Cyber Weekend. And then, of course, leading into the Christmas sale period. And this has been a long-standing complaint, a point of concern, and our local commerce commissions and the ACCC in Australia has certainly gone down the path of enforcement action wherever it catches these brands and businesses out. However, the vast majority of the time, as in this case, it's usually individual shoppers who report this type of behavior to the likes of the New Zealand Commerce Commission that then gets followed up on. And so it's incumbent, it's really, really important that consumers are aware that there is the potential for this to happen, whether it be through, intentional malicious intent or whether it's just a genuine mistake or accident, as Chemist Warehouse is claiming here. I find it quite surprising that Chemist Warehouse would claim this. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, and for them not to understand how pricing is going to be affected across three different sales campaign periods, it's difficult to buy that. They've got phalanx of marketers in their business, so maybe it's a case of the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. So I'm not going to openly accuse Chemist Warehouse of anything malicious here, but it is just surprising to hear their response when they're the ones running the campaigns across all their items across these three different selling campaigns. So it does call into question: is this something that they do on a regular basis, or is this a one-off, or in this case a three-off? I guess time will tell, but it's important that consumers do be aware if they have something in their shopping cart and then they go into a sale period and they see that the prices change and the prices actually go up, then this can be a situation. This can be indicative of a situation where that particular retailer has jacked up prices maybe in the week leading up to a sale period so that they can show a bigger discount during the selling window and not actually discount it by as much as the consumer perhaps thinks that they are discounting it. So it is worth keeping that in mind. It is worth keeping an eye on your favorite products that you buy on a regular basis from a given retailer. And because Chemist Warehouse is primarily consumable products, in this case, it's pretty easy if someone buys the same product week in, week out, month in, month out. It's pretty easy for them to keep an eye on if they look back through their sales history, what the prices were that they purchased a product for. So it's pretty easy for these brands to be caught out if they do take this approach to selling. So yeah, just I guess buyer beware and retailer beware is the news here, because you potentially will be prosecuted if you practice that kind of sort of dodgy selling techniques. Now, this next piece of news came out of Charged Retail out of the UK, and that's that Sheen launches new $10 million sustainability and social impact fund. Sheen has announced the launch of the Sheen Cares Fund, a new multi-year commitment to support global nonprofit organizations focused on empowering entrepreneurs, supporting underserved communities, ensuring animal health and welfare, and promoting recycling and the circular economy. Now, when I read this, I kind of almost felt like, is it too little too late here for Shein, or is this sort of an effort to try to repair some of the brand damage that's been done by not only Shein themselves, but also the fast fashion industry in general, around calling into question things like sustainability, calling into question things like modern slavery and the manufacturing processes and areas and regions and people that are doing manufacturing for the fast fashion industry? Is this a bit of buttering up the community while not actually addressing any potential underlying issues that would dramatically impact their business? I mean, $10 million, Shein is the one of the largest, if not the largest retailers in the world when it comes to fast fashion. $10 million is frankly like peeing in the ocean. So while it sounds like a lot on the face of it, and maybe it is, to them, it's absolutely nothing. So is this simply a brand damage control campaign where they're spending on stuff that doesn't materially impact their business, but makes them perhaps look good to the consumers that buy from them, and maybe a little bit of guilt from buying from a fast fashion retailer? I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't in the boardroom when this decision was made, so it is hard to tell. But it certainly, it seems a little bit self-serving at the very least, especially when they're not directly head-on addressing issues of potential modern slavery and other issues of sustainability and waste, etc., that is swirling around the industry and has been for a number of years now. Now, what's interesting is that the article pointed out that this news comes as Shein was recently accused of widespread worker exploitation, including 75-hour work weeks, fire building safety hazards, and a lack of compliance with employment law, according to investigation by Private Eye. And in October, Shein was dubbed the most manipulative fashion website, according to research by Rouge Media. So again, I don't know whether this is just trying to prevent some further brand damage as they continue to struggle with their place in the world as a massive fashion retailer promoted by some of the biggest influencers in the world. But $10 million for sustainability and social impact. Okay, great. That's fantastic. Good on you. But, remains to be seen whether they will address some of the direct questions being asked about the sustainability of their business for people and planet. So let's just watch and see what happens next in regards to Shein. Now, in omni-channel commerce platform news, there was a really interesting article that was just released by Bloomberg Businessweek, and it was titled "How Shopify Outfoxed Amazon to Become the Everywhere Store." And it's not specifically necessarily talking about any one thing that Shopify did in terms of its platform or its technology or its functionality that made it be so great and be doing so well and be the number one dedicated e-commerce platform in the world in terms of market share. But it did call out some really, really interesting keynotes or footnotes around that sort of legacy battle between Shopify and Amazon, in the way that they've done battle for a very long time. And obviously Amazon is winning the battle from a pure, I guess, revenue and profitability perspective. But as Shopify likes to say, it is arming the rebels, those being the independent retailers around the world that are selling online. And it called out some really interesting footnotes around that battle over the years and how it took shape and how Shopify has won a couple of those battles, to be fair. And it called out the fact that in 2015, after 10 years of tidy growth, two milestones propelled Shopify into the stratosphere of online retail. That is its initial public offering and an inexplicable decision by Amazon to essentially sell its website building division to Shopify for a meager $1 million. It says, even more critical event came a few months after the IPO, where Amazon also operated a service that let independent merchants run their websites called WebStore. Bang and Olufsen, Fruit of the Loom, and Lacoste were among the 80,000 or so companies that used it to run their online shops. And if he wanted to, Bezos surely had the resources and engineering process to crush Shopify and steal its momentum. Amazon execs from that time admit that the web store service just wasn't very good, and its sales were dwarfed by all the rich opportunities the company was seeing in its global marketplace, where customers shop on Amazon.com, not on merchant web stores. At the time, the company was developing house brands such as Amazon Basics, blah, blah, blah. And it says in late 2015, in one of Bezos's periodic purges of underachieving businesses, he agreed to close WebStore. Then, in a rare strategic mistake that's likely to go down in the annals of corporate blunders, Amazon sent its customers to Shopify and proclaimed publicly that the Canadian company was its preferred partner for the web store diaspora. In exchange, Shopify agreed to offer Amazon Pay to its merchants and let them easily list their products on Amazon's marketplace. Shopify also paid Amazon $1 million, a financial arrangement that's never been previously reported on. Bezos and his colleagues believed that supporting small retailers in their online shops was never going to be a large, profitable business. They were wrong. Small online retailers generated about $153 billion in sales in 2020, according to AMI Partners. Shopify made us look like fools, said the former Amazon executive. So a very interesting story there about some of the, I guess, the goings on behind the scenes. If you were a fly on the wall then and now, I'm sure they will kick themselves in the backside about this. Well, not Bezos, because he's a multi-billionaire, so I don't think he loses much sleep over it now, but certainly a strategic blunder. And it just goes to show that no matter how big and powerful you are, and no matter how smart you are, and no matter how much resources you have, or how many resources you have, you are not immune to making strategic business mistakes. It's how you recover from them, and it's how you move forward despite those mistakes that makes you what you are. And certainly Amazon has more than recovered from that, but certainly Shopify has benefited dramatically from that mistake at that time, and it added a whole ton of new merchants to its roster because of that mistake by Amazon. And to acquire what looks like around 80,000 customers for $1 million is pretty cheap customer acquisition costs, if you do ask me. Now, in marketplace news, Yara Valley Smaller Wineries Association launches an online marketplace in Australia. This is from Internet Retailing, this piece of news. And I should just probably start calling this section just another Aussie marketplace, because I tell you, Australia has some of the largest numbers of marketplaces in the entire world on a per capita basis, and it seems like one is getting launched either every day or at least every week. So here is yet another one coming on stream. The Yara Valley Smaller Wineries Association. Man, that's a mouthful. Maybe they just call themselves the YVSWA. They've introduced an online marketplace where Aussie consumers can access more than 100 handcrafted drops from its portfolio of 21 members. A first for a wine association in the country, the new marketplace helps boutique wineries, which have been struggling during extended lockdowns, to promote themselves through e-commerce and reach lesser-known areas in the region. When people think of the Yara Valley, they may instinctively want to visit or purchase wines from the Coldstream or Golden Mile, said Daniel Tokar, president of Yara Valley Small Wineries Association. However, what some people don't realize is that there are several subregions in the valley that contain smaller producers who make some of the best wines in Australia. With this new platform, we hope to further encourage wine drinkers across the country to expand their horizons and try something new outside of their comfort zone. So good luck to these guys. Hey, look, this is a good business initiative by a local business association. One wonders how that split is going to happen. Does the association make a certain amount of the cut, from a successful wine sales? Is it the individual wineries as they sell product? Is it shared revenue across all the wineries? I'd love to understand the commercials about this much better, but I don't think this is the end of business associations starting up local marketplaces to benefit their members. It makes a hang of a lot of sense. It doesn't specifically say what platform they used, whether it was Marketplace or Miracle or a bespoke platform. But let's I'll try to find out what platform they actually used to build this out. And it's certainly some interesting news coming out of the small wine region in the Yara Valley. Now, in social media news, this one was an absolutely eye-watering headline when I first read it, and that's that China's live streaming queen Via fined US $210 million for tax evasion. And this is a story from Reuters. And this was announced. This article came out on December the 20th. China's queen of live streaming has been fined 1.34 billion yuan, which equates to about $210.16 million for tax evasion, tax authorities said on Monday. Internet celebrity Via, whose real name is Huang Wei, was fined for hiding personal income and other offenses in 2019 and 2020, according to the tax bureau in Hangzhou, a city in southern China. She later apologized and said, "I'm deeply sorry about my violations of the tax laws and regulations," she said on her Weibo account. "I thoroughly accept the punishment made by the tax authorities." Yes, I would say that she probably would. She probably doesn't want a Jack Ma done to her. She probably doesn't want to be disappeared. So she's absolutely going to be towing the mark. But what's interesting is that this article also calls out the fact that this is not the first and probably won't be the last of the celebrity live streamers to get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. It says Via is the latest celebrity live streamer to get caught up in a broad crackdown that initially targeted tech monopolies, but has since gone on to take aim at private education, social media platforms, and the culture of celebrity. Before the crackdown, tax evasion had already sunk the career of several well-known figures in the entertainment industry. Via, however, represents a new generation of celebrities whose meteoric rise to fame has been powered by the equally dizzying growth of China's e-commerce sector, many aspects of which have come under regulatory scrutiny. And it says Via's accounts on Weibo, Taobao Live, and short video platform Douyin went offline. The State Taxation Administration issued a notice in September announcing measures to strengthen tax administration in the entertainment sector, including live streamers. And the office said that anyone who reports and corrects tax-related misdoings would be given lighter punishment or even exempt from punishment. And more than 1,000 people had taken the initiative to pay tax arrears, according to state media. So, this is just, I guess, the latest massive piece of news to come out of, or the tail end that's still whipping around of this tech crackdown by Chinese authorities across many, many aspects of the industry, whether that be by anti-competitive watchdogs, anti-competition, watchdogs in China to ensure healthy competition. A lot of these big, large tech companies, particularly in the education sector, they're being nationalized. Obviously, cryptocurrency being outlawed in China, and the crackdown on Bitcoin use in China also ensued. So we've got pretty much an across-the-board crackdown in anything related to massive internet brands, whether that be corporate brands or individual, personal, private brands that are massive online. So I guess the idea here is China wants to spur the industry as a whole as much as it can, but as soon as a business or a marketplace or a personal brand gets too large, they are going to take steps to cut them down to size so it does not destabilize the social fabric and the culture of the country. So they've made it very, very clear that that is the path they're going to continue to take. So people need to be aware of that. Businesses need to be aware of that. And they need to be really, really cautious about how they operate in China, particularly if there are foreign investors that are looking at investing into China. We just don't know where this is going to end, or if it's going to end, or if they're going to continue to take bites out of companies and, in fact, in many cases, absolutely straight out nationalize them. Now, the next one is that the next story is that Meta's Facebook pockets stolen cash and ads scam, leaving vendors fleeced. And this came out of Internet Retailing. Heartbroken by the disappearance of her cat, Filipino IT specialist and blogger Sophie decided to use her Facebook ads account to appeal to anyone in her local area who might have seen it. Just 2 days later, her bank account had been emptied, and Facebook was sending her a demand for further advertising it served after her debit card charge bounced and before her campaign was canceled. In total, she was asked to pay the local equivalent of US $1,050, which is obviously a huge sum of money, particularly if you're in the Philippines, and particularly if you're a small business. That is just a phenomenal sum of money that can actually break many of these businesses' backs. And she says it was not Sophie's campaign. She was the victim of a sophisticated Facebook ads scam believed to originate in Vietnam, in which people are hacking legitimate Facebook ad accounts and launching retail campaigns selling totally unrelated products. In the case of Sophie's hack, cheap, ugly t-shirts. And so this apparently has been going on for some time. Mashable did a report about it a couple of months ago, and it talked about how that they do it by putting an executable file on the unsuspecting person's computer and executing it from there to allow them to take over their ads account. And so Sophie went to go ahead and try to get a refund from Facebook for these fraudulent campaigns, and she was unable to do so. She says, but worse in Sophie's mind is the response of Facebook, which is raking in stolen funds and leaving victims like her to foot the bill. She has shared her experience with Inside Retail in the hopes of making other online retailers and advertisers aware of the potential for large-scale scams. And Facebook's indifference as the ultimate benefactor, some 10 million companies and individuals around the world use Facebook ads. Repeated messages and emails Sophie sent to Facebook drew only automated responses, signaling a lack of understanding of the issue, despite projecting itself as a caring, responsible company, boasting of its commitment to fraud protection measures and technology to weed out irregular, suspicious activity. So then she goes on to say that the response completely missed the point, that I had not placed the advertisement and that I had not agreed to anything. The hackers did, Sophie told Inside Retail. So hackers stole money from me. Facebook gets to keep the cash, and they tell me it's my problem. How can that be the action of a responsible company? When she followed up on the company's response, she received another link to a help center page, which invited her to repeat the complaint and told her due to limited support resources, the case will now be closed automatically. They just don't care, Sophie told Inside Retail. Considering how big their company is, I'm just small fry. There is a warning here for all companies with Facebook ad accounts. They are not secure, and Facebook does not care if you are hacked. It just pockets the cash. So, again, this is, in the annals of businesses behaving badly. Facebook has had a really, really rough year, from its being slammed for its damage to young teen girls through Instagram and body dysmorphia being promoted via the platform, now to basically their core ads business coming under fire for not cracking down on fraudulent ads because it is still collecting the cash from those ads. So shame on you, Facebook. Shame on you, Meta. Shame on you, Mark Zuckerberg. This is an absolute shocker. And, this cannot happen too many more times before I think it starts to actually impact the bottom line and advertisers start to reallocate funds to other platforms that are more secure, more safe, and where you can actually speak to a human being if you have an issue. And hopefully those people will actually care enough to be able to help you to deal with your issue instead of just referring you to a help page, which doesn't really help you at all. We're already seeing hemorrhaging of Facebook ad money to TikTok. So actions like this are really going to accelerate that trend. So I'd watch my back if I was Facebook. As Sophie rightly points out, I doubt that they're going to sweat this over the loss of a single advertiser. But certainly this has the potential to do a significant amount of brand damage in the market through news like this, where I'm talking about it, where you'll likely be talking about it and telling your friends, telling your family, telling anybody that will listen to keep an eye on their Facebook ads account, because you could be in for a harsh ride. Now, the next piece of news is a financial piece of news, and this is that volatility on the ASX-listed e-com index in Australia continues. This came out of Power Retail. The acceleration of e-com hasn't resulted in pre-Christmas high on the ASX. Will investors look back on this time as a missed opportunity? Last week, Kogan announced that it had sold the domain name bitbuy.com to Canadian cryptocurrency trading platform BitBuy for US $1.5 million. And Kogan also entered into an advertising arrangement to provide marketing support when BitBuy launches in Australia. The domain sale not only delivers returns for Kogan shareholders, of course, this is negligible because, they're hundreds of millions of dollars business, but also provides an opportunity to benefit from BitBuy's future success in the crypto business abroad and potentially in the Australian market, Kogan's executive director, David Schaefer, said. In response to the announcement, Kogan shares lifted slightly, up 2% over 7 days and 15% over 14 days. And this changes little in the short term, but in the longer term, it positions Kogan well from both a crypto and advertising standpoint. And it called out the fact that Kogan was the only company on the ASX listed e-commerce index to actually experience share price growth over the last week, with all others on the index either remaining stagnant, both Bike Exchange and Satire at 0% or shedding. Booktopia and MyDeal were the worst performers in this time period, dropping by 10.8 and 10.6% respectively. Last week, Booktopia announced the completion of its newly published and distribution agreement with UK-based Welbeck Publishing Group, and it went on to talk about a few of these other major brands on the ASX e-commerce from the ASX e-commerce sector brands. So it says the overall ASX e-com index is underperforming compared to the ASX 200, the latter shedding 1.2%, with the former dropping 3.2% over the last 7 days. Taking a longer-term view, the differences are more apparent, with the e-com index losing 18.4% over 90 days compared to the ASX 200, which shed 1.3% in the same period. So that's a phenomenal difference, 18.4% versus 1.3% down. However, I think that as we find a new normal in e-commerce across ANZ, as the countries continue to open back up again from physical retail, although having said that, our government seemed to want to lock us down at the drop of a hat. So it remains to be seen just how long we'll be open again without being locked back down again. And then we'll see how these e-commerce brands land and where they land if and when retail actually opens up in earnest and they kind of have to foot it with physical retail again. Now, the next piece of financial news is that Sage is going to acquire Bright Pearl for around $300 million. And this news came out of Sage, and TechCrunch and a whole bunch of other news outlets discussed this, and it happened it was announced on 20th of December. And the Sage Group, the leader in accounting, financial, HR, and payroll technology for small and medium-sized businesses, today announced that it has agreed to acquire Bright Pearl, a cloud-native, multi-channel retail management system for retailers and wholesalers. And if you go back to my feed, my LinkedIn feed over the last week, I did an entire post just about this acquisition. It's a pretty amazing acquisition. It surprised me. I've actually recently done a podcast interview with the team over at Bright Pearl. That is going to come out at the end of January. That episode is going to come out at the end of January. Obviously, they didn't disclose that at the time that this was in discussions, which makes sense because, of course, that is always private until the formal announcement is made that the deal has been done with a big red bow around it. But they just snuck it in under the wire pre-Christmas. So good on them. $300 million is a big chunk of change. And funnily enough, Sage already owned a 17% minority stake in Bright Pearl, and this $300 million just buys the remaining 83% of the company. Now, I'm reasonably familiar with Bright Pearl. It's an omni-channel platform that provides point of sale. It provides warehouse management, order management, inventory management functionality, and other omni-channel functions, including predictive analytics and the like, plus some ERP-like functionality similar to Sage in that it can also manage your financials and your general ledger as well. So it feels like a bit of a match made in heaven. Sage obviously sees the growth of e-com and omnichannel and wants to get their finger into that pie. And it gives them an opportunity to cross-sell their other Sage products, including their ERP systems, their payroll, the HR systems, and some of their other CRM and other technologies that Sage also sells. Sage has struggled to remain relevant. They are primarily an on-premise technology platform vendor. And with the world's massive move to SaaS, they've lost some relevancy. They've put some of their products into the cloud, but because they are historically architected to be on-premise, they're obviously not cloud native products. They're not SaaS native products. And so in Bright Pearl, they are acquiring a SaaS native omnichannel commerce platform that they can both learn from, profit from, and cross-sell into that same client base. So it feels very much like a match made in heaven, and we'll just see how it turns out for both brands. I wish them both the best of luck. They're both UK founded and based, so it makes sense that they would work more closely together. And I have no doubt that the integrations between the two platforms will be very robust once they're built out formally internally. So keep an eye on this one. Final piece of news for the day is that podcast episode of the At the Coalface podcast, episode 110, dropped yesterday morning, as it always does every Thursday morning. And this episode was me speaking with Adam Boris from Snatch It about e-commerce influencer marketplaces. I think you will get a tremendous amount out of this podcast episode. It was a heck of a lot of fun. Adam is an amazing character, an amazing young Australian entrepreneur that's doing great things in Australia and trying to break down the barriers for brands to work with influencers, particularly micro influencers, and trying to create a pathway for their evangelist customers to become influencers in their own right, and leveraging network effects and viral selling effects to create commercial opportunities, not only for Snatch It, but also for the brands and also for the influencers themselves. So it's kind of a three-way marketplace that's being built out with Snatch It for brands and directly connecting those brands, Shopify stores into Snatch It, making those products available basically on an affiliate basis to the influencers, and then obviously Snatch It being the plumbing that connects both together. So good on Adam. He's done a great job building this platform out, during some tumultuous times over the last couple of years with COVID. He's done an amazing job, and he also runs another retail business with his wife. So good on Adam. It was a fantastic chat. Go and check out this episode. I think it was an absolute banger. Let me know what you think on LinkedIn. And just go ahead and drop your thoughts in LinkedIn about that episode. It's been an absolute blast being with you today. Really appreciate your time on this Friday on Christmas Eve. And I hope you guys have a fantastic Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I will see you next Friday. So talk to you again soon. Thanks, guys.